Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Welcome to another edition of the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where we explore innovative strategies and insights to help tax and accounting professionals thrive in today's competitive landscape. I'm your host, Lee Reams, the second founder and CEO of CountingWorks, and today we have a very special episode lined up for you. Our topic is SEO mastery for tax and accounting pros, building trust and boosting visibility. And we're actually going to come up with a new definition of what SEO is all about. So joining me today is Rebekah Barton, the Chief Visibility Officer at CountingWorks, and together we'll be diving into the world of SEO, specifically how tax and accounting professionals can leverage the latest insights from the recent Google algorithm leak, which is fun to talk about, to build trust, enhance your online visibility, and ultimately command higher feeds. So Rebekah, if you could say hello before we jump in here.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to dive into this with you today.
Yeah, so this episode, we're talking about SEO optimization, but it's really, the term today is search everywhere or search anywhere optimization. It depends on how you want to look at it, because it's not just Google search anymore that's dominating how people find you or decide to work with you, and then how the algorithms kind of rank you. So it's all about authority, about expertise, trustworthiness. And today we're going to talk about that. It's the definition of EEAT, expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness is usually what people talk about when they talk about Google search, but the social media has their own algorithms. TikTok has their own algorithms. Facebook has their own algorithm. In addition, now with AI tools providing answers and tools like CountingWorks AI Assistant, there's ways that you can actually start training the AI and be referenced as the expert in certain areas. So we're going to talk about actionable strategies that you can implement to boost your search rankings and attract more clients. More importantly, perhaps better clients, higher paying clients. Clients that you can spend less time with and get better outcomes. So whether you're looking to establish your credibility online or optimize your content for AI and generative search, we've got you covered. So let's get ready to transform your practice with cutting edge SEO tactics that will set you apart in the tax and accounting industry. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about the first question, which is kind of the base of the discussion today, is the importance of SEO for tax and accounting professionals. So why is it a critical component for success?
Absolutely critical because you work in the finance space. That's the short answer. The longer answer is that Google has something called YMYL, your money, your life, which effectively means that any business, any industry that affects people's finances or their health or anything related to like your personal welfare is ranked more carefully than someone selling you, say, a shirt. So you want to make sure that you have really good authority, that you have established yourself as an expert in your area. The more you work on that and the higher your authority is, the higher you're going to rank when you work in tax and accounting, financial planning, anything of that nature.
So I'm going to lean into the first thing is, and one of the biggest points of all of this. So when we talk about search everywhere optimization, we're saying, where does it start with? And it starts with your brand. So, what is the domain authority of your practice, of you yourself as an expert? And kind of explain, before I get into what the Google leak taught us, but kind of explain how leading tax and accounting firms are actually doing this today.
Sure. So it's no longer just about your website. I think that's where we have to start. It's about your entire web presence and about building a brand across the web. Your web footprint is what we call it in the SEO industry. You want to have a solid web footprint that extends your brand to social media sites, to, major websites where you've been interviewed and you're getting backlinks from those, to other small businesses in your area that are backlinking to you. So you have to think about everything more holistically now than perhaps you did, 10, 15, even 5 years ago. So it's really, really important for you to build a solid brand that has, keyword optimization across the board, where you are using your brand to really build a name for yourself cross web, not just on your website alone.
So let's get into the Google leak and kind of what we learned. And, what does it mean when it was a Google algorithm leak? I mean, basically, people decipher what Google is doing, what the algorithm is doing based on trends and what they see in the real world. So SEO is always kind of put together what their survey of ranking signals are and what they mean. But some of these documents that were provided online basically have now been deciphered by the SEO community. And kind of what did we learn from the Google algorithm leak? What's kind of something maybe new? We just talked about strong brand. What else can you add to that?
Well, we learned a lot, for starters. So it was a large data leak. There was a lot of information that came out. For one thing, we learned that Google does not have 200 or so ranking factors like people thought for many years. They have about 14,000. So that is huge for people like me who work in SEO. All of a sudden, there's no world in which we can memorize or get to know every single one of these ranking factors. So we're really diving into little things. There's a lot of words, terms that maybe lay people aren't going to necessarily understand, but things like nav boost, which was Google Chrome data that is being used specifically for the Google algorithm, which was very interesting because to date, which browser you used was not necessarily known to affect your search ranking in a major way. Now we know Google may very well be prioritizing Chrome users over, say, Safari users or Firefox or Opera or whatever other browser you may be using. So something to consider. Lots of other things too. Neural search ranking in SR, which is a very important component. And that is, in short, it's kind of a reference to the meaning behind copy. So it's basically that Google's algorithm is extremely intelligent now. It understands when you're keyword stuffing. It understands when you're using words just to use words and they don't really add value. And I think that's something we'll get into today, is really providing value in all of the content that you post and providing unique value that isn't just copying content from someone else, because that neural search ranking factor is really, really critical and something that I don't think people think about enough. There were lots and lots of other things as well. Image quality. That's a big one. And if you've ever talked to me, if you're a Counting Works client, I will go on and on about using high quality images. They don't just look better on your website and give a more professional appearance, but they actually can heavily impact your search ranking, as can alt text. We knew alt text was important, but the leak just kind of confirmed that imagery really matters. Having proper alt text, which is essentially a description of an image that tells what's happening in it. Those are all really important things that I think people need to be focusing more on as they decide on content, graphics, all those different things that make a website.
Yeah, I always, and you alluded to this a little bit ago, is I always say it takes much more than a website to get found online. I've been saying that for years and years and years, and it's just showing more and more to be true. Two other things that I think are important that we can take away from this leak is the importance of fresh content and relevance to the content, to the audience that you're targeting. So what that means is, a person who hires a WordPress, website designer and tries to save $1 here or there and puts up a website, and 5 years later, the first blog post is the same blog post you did 5 years ago. When I visit your site today, that is a negative. That is not making you stand out from your competition. It's not a positive signal to Google. There's a real reason you want to be updating your web content, your blog content, all the time. That can affect your rankings. Also, leveraging authorship. So what does that mean? Guest posting, maybe writing on LinkedIn, Medium, writing on taxbuzz.com. If you're a Counting Works Pro subscriber, you get a TaxBuzz membership. We allow you to blog for free on our site that gets millions and millions of visitors, has a huge high page authority, inbound links to your website. It's kind of like the freest way to solve two things. You get links inbound from a high authority site, and then you get to build out your expert authorship, which builds trust and authority in your field, which is a signal to Google. And then these other algorithms, again, we're not just talking about Google anymore. People are searching in all sorts of different ecosystems. So understanding what the EAT, how that applies to accountants. You talked a little bit about your money. Kind of explain how you establish your expertise, experience, authority, trustworthiness to an algorithm. Like how, what is it reading from your brand post and, what you're doing online to give you those scores?
So there are a number of factors that go into EAT. or eat, however you want to say it these days, now that we have two E's. But effectively, one thing is just time. The length of time your URL has existed, the length of time you've been a brand, the length of time that your name, address, phone have been accurately portrayed across the web, all of these sort of foundational factors, those do play into it. And I always like to lead with that, because if you're a business that has existed for 30 years and you've owned your URL since 1995, you will automatically have more authority than somebody who bought a URL last year, regardless of whatever else you've done to build your brand. That said, the amount of legwork you're willing to do is the amount of authority, the amount of trustworthiness that you're going to get out of it. So if you do nothing, you're not going to build authority quickly. You're not going to build trust quickly. You're not going to rank well fast. If you're willing to put in the legwork, you're going to do better. There's just no two ways about it. You can do a lot of things. You can post to social media and start building a following there to help drive traffic to your website. You can do things like do interviews. Lee, you mentioned authorship. You can write on other websites. That's huge and oftentimes doesn't cost anything. I frequently tell our clients, reach out to your local newspaper, reach out to local business magazines. They may not be able to pay you for your commentary on a particular topic, but they're always looking for local experts who can speak to certain topics. And if nothing else, you may get a really good backlink out of it from your local, business journal or what have you, or news networks even. Just getting your name out there. And then when people Google you, not only are they going to see your name in various places that they trust, like a news network or a magazine, but Google's going to connect the dots and say, okay, if the local NBC affiliate, for example, trusts this person, we can too. So it all connects, it all builds off of each other. So the more you're willing to do to get your name out there, the more your EAT score is going to increase.
Yeah, Rebekah, you had mentioned NAP, name, address, phone number. That used to be like a much bigger signal. For our clients, we've always managed their directory listings, and we continue to do that for all our VIP clients. It's gotten smaller and smaller, but it is just, think of it, it's just like each thing you add on is giving more signals to all of these different algorithms to say, okay, and for example, if you've moved a couple times and then someone Googles you and the phone number is an old phone number or is your old address, and there's a chance you might drive to the wrong place if they're seeing you in person or mailing you something, those are the elements that we're talking about. So Rebekah just gave you a few different specific steps you can take to establish credibility and authority online. I really like the being mentioned. Help a Reporter, Haro, Help a Reporter online is a very good tool. There's a lot of different ways that you can get in front of media or journalists. So definitely look at that. And again, use tools like TaxBuzz as well. All right, Rebekah, let's now pivot a little bit to content strategies for accountants and tax pros. So we often talk about niching down and even niching deep. What type of content? So there's two issues here. What type of content? And then should I be taking that exercise to actually really target this and focus the content to get a better audience?
So you absolutely should be targeting and niching deep. Like you said, we talk a lot about this. We've done entire podcasts on this topic about niching deep and really honing in on who your target audience is. So what I always tell people is that there's no one size fits all content strategy. You may feel at first like you're throwing a little bit of spaghetti at the wall, and that's okay. It does take some time to see what's going to resonate with your audience. But before you start doing that and just posting anything and everything that comes to mind, take some time, sit down, evaluate who your clients really are. The people who are paying you the most money for the least amount of work, the people you enjoy working with the most. And you may even find that you already have a niche that you didn't realize you had. Sometimes I talk to people who realize all of their clients are upscale restaurant owners, or most of them, and they had never really thought about it before because they work with them all in one-off situations or one-on-one. So just sit down, think, and then start building a brand that is going to be appealing to those people and start building content that's going to resonate with them. So using that restaurant owner example, you may want to really focus on, local tax issues that could affect them, inventory tax changes, sales tax changes, things that are going to appeal to those sorts of people. There's a lot of things you can do. Video content is huge. Connecting with other local businesses is huge. Creating reels where you interview a satisfied client within your target audience, that can be great. Those can do really well, especially if you post them to the other business's website as well, or their social media, anywhere that they can post video. So just think through who you want to reach and then do some work strategizing what those people's pain points are, and then create content that tells how you can solve those pain points. And this process will work no matter who your audience is, because you're still answering the same questions.
So I think that opens it up to, it sounds kind of overwhelming. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways. Some people, might not feel comfortable in front of a video or a camera. Others, may not have time to research, specific content. So I want to lead into the use of AI, artificial intelligence, and writing this type of content, whether that be social posts, or let's just say it's a blog or even like a white paper. So one of the questions we hear often is, I'm concerned about like copyright. I want, we need original content. The algorithms are saying, hey, we can see what is AI written or not. I think with a lot of personalization and proper prompt writing, and then, a little cleanup on your side, you can get an original, really well-written piece of content very quickly now using artificial intelligence. So explain a little bit of how you use AI, or how you would recommend someone using AI for a couple of those use cases.
Definitely. So it's great for blog writing, and it's great for social media content calendar planning, which I think are the two examples that I'll focus on here today. You can use AI obviously for a lot of other things, but for this purpose, with blog writing, it's really important to make sure you give it enough information. So one of the biggest issues I see when I'm training people on prompt writing, which is something I do for Counting Works clients, is that they'll give it a very general topic. They'll say something like, hey, can you please write me a 500-word blog article with small business tax tips? That opens up a whole world for the algorithm. It doesn't know what exactly you want. And then people complain that it's too generic. Your prompt was generic. So effectively, the more detailed your prompt is, the more detailed your article is going to be, or the final product is going to be. So if you say something like, I'm working to offer tax and accounting services to gig economy workers who are, millennials and Gen Z, and I would like a top 10 tips list for these people so that I can help them and show them how I can solve problems that are common in the gig economy. That's a better prompt. Give it specific things. And you can even tell it things like, write it in the style of, insert name here, a particular writer you like, or make this kind of funny, or you can tell it to use a very serious professional voice. But the more detail you put into AI, the better your result is going to be. And over time, many of these algorithms, if they are machine learning models, they will start to get to know you. They'll start to understand what you like. Give it feedback. That's another thing. And in the case of a content calendar, also be specific. Don't just say, hey, I'd like a content calendar for Facebook for the next 30 days. Say something like, hi, I'm a tax and accounting professional. I specialize in working with gig economy workers, and I would like Facebook posts with image or video suggestions for the next 14 days, and see what it spits out in comparison to that very general prompt. So I think specificity is probably the key takeaway from this section.
Yeah, and so 100% you can use the tools to save you an immense amount of time. You can be more productive than ever, and you can really write very targeted, specific content to these audiences. I think what people don't realize, and kind of what Rebekah was saying, is that, what is a 529 plan versus, write me an article targeted for people who just had children, and the importance of giving their grandparents to help in savings of 529 plans. You're going to get a much more unique, targeted article from that than you would just the generic site. So I think these are really important things. Obviously, Counting Works and our TaxBuzz AI tools are kind of leading the way on this. And the difference between us and what I'll call generic chatbots are we train our data year-round, daily, basically. So we have human verified content that is feeding the tool. So the context accuracy is much, much higher. So if you've used generic chatbots and been unimpressed with the quality when it comes to like tax code references and things like that, definitely check out what we're doing over here at countingworkspro.com. So I'm going to go now into an area that can be gray area, because a lot of times people try to hack this, but leveraging backlinks and then building site authority. So what are some ways that a smaller practice could enhance their backlinks and site authority to help improve the signals to Google? Because we know from the leak, it's a major thing. All the surveys, it's a major thing. There's reasons like brands like Apple could care less about SEO because everyone is linking to them. So they don't need to do anything. They literally could build the worst website design ever, and still rank number one just because of the brand authority. But kind of explain how that would work.
So first and foremost, do not buy backlinks. It's tempting. I know it is. Lots of people do it, but typically you're not getting high quality backlinks when you purchase backlinks. So the first thing I would say is leverage your connections, right? Networking is still huge online. It may not be the same as networking 25 years ago where you would go to a networking group and get to know people, but think about other people in your community who might be willing to give you a shout out online. That's a really great way to start building a linking strategy locally, and it's not overwhelming. It's not biting off more than you can chew. It's very accessible. So one thing that we have clients do all the time is have a page that says our partners on their website. And then the people who partner with them, whether it's, a local financial planner, if they don't offer financial planning, or an attorney, if they don't offer estate planning, things like that, they will link out to those websites. And then those same professionals in their area will link back to them. It's a very simple way to start getting some backlinks. If you want to think bigger, think about things like reaching out to those other local news networks. If you live in a metropolitan area, things like that. See if they would have any sort of way that you could either come on a show and get a backlink to your website, or you could provide commentary for an article about tax and accounting issues and get backlinks from that. And then also, Lee, like we've brought up a few times, it's great to get backlinks from sites where you're writing as well. So Medium, we mentioned, TaxBuzz, even doing your own blogging can be helpful. Newsbreak is a great option if you're writing more newsworthy local stories. There are so many options out there. And you also mentioned Help a Reporter Out, but I'm going to just mention it again because that's a good way to get connected with local media.
Yeah, and I'll add, just even go into your college profiles or anything from EDU. Somehow you can get into a Gov. Inbound links are helpful. If you're in a local market, let's say there's some local high schools or local teams or clubs that you could sponsor. And if they have like a page where they list their sponsors and they can link to you, that's probably worth the donation just to get that kind of link. So then there's local signals. Google says, hey, I'm in Newport Beach. I sponsored this water polo team. Now my brand is associated with a local thing. It's an inbound link. It's another mention. These are all areas that you can kind of, easily, without a lot of work, get some helpful links and then build your reputation, obviously. So which leads me into reputation. And to me, this is the easiest low-hanging fruit possible, especially when we bring on new clients. The first two things I say to them is get your database loaded into our CRM platform. Why? So now we can turn the newsletter on, which is golden. It's guaranteed business and guaranteed interaction and referrals. The second one is we can send a review campaign out on your behalf. And what we want to do is get your Google profile, lots and lots of 5-star reviews there. We want to get your reviews on taxbuzz.com. And immediately those are signals, and it's a big part of the algorithm. So think about even a referral who searches your name. So one of your colleagues refers a client, they Google your name, and what happens if you show up with no reviews? Or more importantly, or worse, like 1-star reviews, even though it's just a couple of disgruntled clients, but you never proactively were getting all the happy clients to review you. It's a big deal. The second thing is, it is much more effective to have the clients do the selling for you, and that's what reviews do. They say it in their voice, and if you're in a vertical, a niche, you're going to hear common things that others are going to resonate with. So how are some ways that we do this for our clients, and why is it so important as far as the algorithms are concerned?
So the review requests that you mentioned, that's a huge thing we do for our clients. We have pre-written review campaigns. You don't have to worry about writing them yourself. We've already pre-made campaigns that are well written and are going to resonate with people. So that's big. Another thing we do is just we make sure that you have that fresh content going out on your blog and your social profiles. That can really help enhance your brand as well, because people want to see that you're active. They want to see that you're out there, that you're doing things. It makes people feel good when they see that you're posting regularly, that you're engaged. They want to work with people who are engaged with their community and with their clients. And that's something that, we do well, is we make sure that you have regular content going out to your social profiles, your blog, and your Google business profile, which is huge, because that's the first thing a lot of people see when they're Googling you. They'll see that Google business profile. I think, another thing we do is just build a really great website. And that also can help enhance your brand image. If you go to a site and it looks like it was built using, Microsoft Paint in 1992, it's not really going to have the same effect as something that's super mobile responsive and looks modern and looks clean. So those are all things that we do. As for things you can do yourself to help build your brand reputation, I kind of mentioned them, but just really engaging, answering questions, answering reviews, even negative reviews. If someone does leave a bad review, get in there and apologize for their experience, ask how you can make it right. Then when new clients happen upon those reviews, they're going to see that you care and that you're willing to make things right. You're willing to address issues. And sometimes that goes further even than anything else, is just knowing that you care about your clients can really help people make the decision to go with you over someone who didn't necessarily show that same level of attention to their online reputation.
So you kind of started getting into the user experience, user engagement side. Site speed, load speed is a huge deal. The faster people's sites load, obviously they don't bounce. It's a huge component and differentiator for us. What does it mean by user engagement? The reason I say this is we'll often get clients who come with us with these just incredibly clunky, like just no one's going to any of the content. It's pretty slim, to the point, talk to your audience site is going to convert much better. When you overwhelm them with your designations or you're talking not to them or their pain points, you're going to have people drop very quickly. So kind of what does that mean when we say user engagement or experience, and how does that actually affect the algorithms and how they look at you?
So user experience does affect engagement ever since May 2021. Google had a huge update then called the UX update, which stands for user experience. And that's when things like load speed became much more important. Mobile responsive design became much more important. Most people these days are going to be finding you on a smartphone or a tablet. That's just the way it is. So you want to make sure that your website looks good on a smaller screen, that it's loading quickly, that it's easy to scroll, which really speaks to what you just said, Lee, about speaking directly to your audience in a concise fashion. That's super important. Another thing that's really important, like we mentioned, is your imagery. And that is because Google wants to be able to know that you're posting relevant images that are high quality. But simultaneously, images play a big role in people who are impaired visually in understanding your website, because Google's algorithm will actually note if you have alt text, and then that plays into accessibility, because alt text can be read by a bot for those who can't see your website. So accessibility is huge. And that's something that people need to pay a lot of attention to. And I don't know that everyone is aware of, is a huge ranking factor from a user experience standpoint. And then you also just want to make sure that your content is engaging, which is what we've been hitting on for this entire podcast. Make sure that you're posting things that make sense for your audience. You're posting things that are going to draw them in and keep them on your website.
All right, so let's talk maybe the future. We've kind of said what we've learned. We've gotten into the future a little bit of how AI is obviously now a competitor to search. So how does that affect me as a professional, perhaps, in showing up on things? And more importantly, how does it affect where my clients are getting information about their tax and accounting related questions? So, what would you say to a small 1 to 20 size CPA or an old agent firm on how they future-proof their practice for, these new technologies that they're out there and people are adapting and using?
Yep. So even though it sounds scary and the world is definitely changing, there are some things about SEO that have remained the same. I've been working in this industry for about 15 years now, and there are certain things that never change. And one of those is that unique content is always going to be king. If you establish yourself as a thought leader, if you make the effort to establish yourself in a niche as an authority in that niche, you are going to be okay. The form it takes may change. You may be posting reels now instead of posting, long form blogs. Or you may be posting TikTok videos instead of, YouTube videos, wherever your audience is. So the popular platforms may shift a bit, but as long as you're focused on reaching your audience, you're going to be okay. So that's kind of the overarching thing I would say to everyone, is just focus on what you do well. And you cannot go wrong with posting high quality content, whether it's a blog post or a TikTok video or whatever it may be, that fits with your brand and your audience. So stay true to yourself. Authentic content is always going to do well. Don't copy someone else. stay true to what you do, and that's going to really help you. As far as getting down to the nitty gritty of things, learning AI is critical. You will get left behind at this point if you're not willing to utilize AI in some fashion, whether it's for content planning or just productivity, those sorts of things. So don't be afraid to dive into AI. It can be really fun. It's a tool for you, and it's something that can help you actually create better content than you could ever create on your own. It can even give you ideas of places to post that you might have never thought about before. So it's a great resource. So I think authenticity and embrace AI are kind of two major takeaways for future-proofing yourself.
Yeah, we have a separate channel, our YouTube channel. So if you do CounterWorks Pro YouTube channel and search for our AI kind of 101, we've had thousands of people come through it. We've been rated very high in the demonstrations that we've done, but in there is about a 20-minute live kind of prompt writing session. So Rebekah and I are going through it. So I'm showing, how to do a tax planning strategy through AI. Rebekah's showing you how to write a social calendar and or a blog article. So it's a huge deal. So one of the things that I think is important and what we're talking about here is building visibility, getting that great first impression. And a lot of professionals, firms are built on referrals. They continue to be, but the way the referrals happen is changed. And I think it's important that all the elements that we're talking about today, whether it helps you rank better, it helps you not only rank better, when a referral Googles you, if they can see an article you've written on another website and it's below, if that first 5 or 6 search result answers are all really positive. So we have 5-star reviews, we have the Google profile of 5-star reviews, your beautiful website up top, and then you have 3 or 4 articles that you've been quoted in and or you've written. That's really going to enhance your visibility. And what this does overall is you're going to be able to command higher fees. So if you're higher in the search results, there's going to be less competition for you. More inbound prospects are going to come to you. If you have a really high visibility and your clients see it and feel it, they're going to give you more referrals as well. And if you followed our advice on niching down and even niching deep, you're going to be more, so you're going to be, people are just going to think you are the expert in that field. And they're going to line up, they're going to go down waiting lists if you do this correctly, where you could have a waiting list of clients. So it's really important to understand that. And, part of what we're talking about is not just, you want to rank well, or when people, Google in an area, I want to show up. That's important. The secondary thing is, how do I convert that to more revenue for me and perhaps less work? So I want to get into a little bit of some examples for better ranking. And I'm just going to throw off some things here, Rebekah, and then this is going to be kind of, in any good webinar, you're supposed to repeat some subjects that we think are important. So I'm going to repeat it just so you can really think about it. So create authoritative content. So again, why is that important? And then more importantly, that decipher what you're going to write about and why you're going to find people that are more interested and they engage your content more because it's more narrowly focused.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep these short since we are recapping, but authoritative content is critical, as we've been saying. It's very important not only for ranking signals, but also for the user experience. You want people to know that you know what you're talking about. They're going to be much more likely to use your services and to use your services for the long run. So to create those lifelong client relationships, if you're posting things that show that you really, really know what you're doing and that you're passionate about it as well.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to get to as well is the more engagement you have in your content, even from a smaller audience, is more important than having, 100,000 people that don't really care. You're only getting a couple people engaging and you have a couple 100,000 followers. It's more important if you had an active audience of just 1,000 people, but every time you're posting, you're getting 20, 30 people jump in. That is a huge signal and will help you rank better. You'll show up better. We talked a little bit about local SEO. But I want to bring that in here because we didn't go real detailed. But let's say I'm in Boston, and Boston has all these different boroughs, and there's all these different areas that people live and work in. And I wanted to target, let's say, 1 or 2 areas. How would you help a client figure out how to create content around local SEO to give signals to the search engines that, hey, this is a CPA that works with restaurants in this area, for example, or it could be any general CPA services, but what is kind of a strategy there?
So local SEO is one of my favorite things. If you guys have ever listened to any of our other podcasts, I love talking about this stuff. So one thing we do for our clients, because we do specialize in geolocation and local SEO at Counting Works, we really hone in on those exact areas and the things that make people there tick, and also maybe landmarks, keywords that are specific to those areas. So let's just say you're in Boston's Back Bay, which is a neighborhood I actually love. So let's say that you're working there with restaurants in the Back Bay, and that's who you want to reach. So one thing I would recommend is creating a content cluster that is related to that topic. So you could literally go to AI and you could say, hey, I'm trying to create a 10 article content cluster that will attract restaurant owners in Boston's Back Bay neighborhood. Can you please provide me with 10 topics and keywords for each? Boom, done. All you have to do then is build out the content, and you could use AI to help you with that as well. But really honing in on things like geolocation, landmarks, things that maybe will resonate with people in that neighborhood that wouldn't necessarily resonate with people in other areas of Boston. That's going to be really important. But just naming those specific things in your article, you can even use things like street names that are in those particular neighborhoods that are just going to signal to Google that you really are an authority in that particular region or neighborhood.
All right, I think that's awesome. And I'm just now going to go into, if you're working in a vertical, let's just stay on the theme of restaurants. I don't know why I always bring up restaurants, but I do. I'm going to change from now on. It's my fault. So, and we use Boston often too, but let's say I am working in the restaurant industry. How would I identify other thought leaders in the industry that might be not necessarily related to financial services or accounting or, virtual CFO services, but they service the trades, they're big brands, and how I could provide content or utilize those relationships with those influencers to get my name out there?
Yes. So this is where kind of not being afraid to get your name out there and reach out to people comes into play. And Lee, you and I have talked before about working with local influencers and kind of thinking outside the box. So in the case of restaurants, and we'll just keep using Boston for this particular podcast, but you might want to look up Boston foodie influencers. Those people are eating at the restaurants that you want to serve, and they're probably followed by a lot of restaurant owners who want to work with them. So working with those people to provide them with any sort of content or collaboration material can be really, really great for your firm. So think a little bit about who your audience is following online or who they may be working with. And, don't be afraid to DM those people. Most people who work online or do any sort of content creation are regularly checking their inboxes. They love collaborating. It's their bread and butter. So never be afraid. I've said it before, I'll say it again, but the worst they can say is no. So don't worry about, a rejection. It's not going to hurt you in the long run, and it may yield a really, really great collaboration.
But guess what? If you haven't built out a beautiful web presence, when you reach out to these people and they Google you and you don't have 5-star reviews and you're not ranking well, the chances of them taking you seriously are much lower. And that's why this is all so important. It's important from referrals from other professionals. I'm going to refer you. What does your web presence look like? I don't want to look bad if I'm an estate planner, right? I'm going to reach out to an influencer. They're going to Google me and do a little research before. Does this person know what they're talking about? If I have a footprint, and this is what we're talking about, this entire podcast is about mastering, your SEO footprint. If I have a very positive footprint, a strong one, I am going to stand out. So I think we've given a pretty good overview. So kind of like a recap here today. We've covered a lot of ground. Exploring a lot of ways tax and accounting professionals can harness the power of search everywhere online to build trust, right? That your business is built on trust, right? Your business is built on expertise, or at least perceived expertise. So no, someone can't look at a biography or your designation and know whether you really know what you're talking about or not. They know at least you passed the CPA exam or you became an enrolled agent, but they don't really know. So all of this strategies, what we're talking about is just reinforcing those items. So it's really important to understand, that expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. How can we use that to boost our search engine rankings? I think it's really important. We've done a lot of practical strategies here. So I think it's great. So one of the things I need to make sure everyone understands, this takes time And a lot of what we're talking about is called evergreen content, and why that is so important. So instead of just paying Google AdWords or Facebook campaigns and social boosting, which is fleeting. So meaning if the campaign worked, great, I got some new clients. If it didn't, I'm out that money. I'm never going to get it back. By investing in organic, green, evergreen type of content creation and a web presence like we're talking about, it builds upon itself over time. It's a competitive advantage. In reality, you're building a moat. And I think that's important. And then as we've seen with our clients who've been with us the longest, they start just multiplying the amount of long-tailed keywords that they rank for. And it just brings more and more traffic to their websites, and which is really what this is all about. So I think this has been pretty informative, but it sounds like a lot of work, Rebekah. So I do have one little sales pitch here. Where does CountingWorks and your team come in and handling all of what we've talked about here today in our SaaS product, in our CountingWorks Pro platform?
Yeah, so our team can handle a lot of this for you. We can handle things like building out citations, which are a huge part of establishing your authority online. Over time, they're going to really help you rank better and just build that authority that you want. We also will manage your Google business listing for you. I do keyword research for you to help out with, doing all of that. I give you a custom about the firm page, so you have a starting point for custom content by going off of some of the keywords that I use there. We're also available. We're available to strategize. We don't run custom campaigns for you, but we are here to help you. I do AI training. So we are really here to hold your hand and kind of walk with you every step of the way as you build your web presence and kind of start your digital journey, no matter where you are when you come to us. If you have a presence, we can help you build on that. If you're looking to just begin a web presence, we can really help you get started on the right foot.
And more importantly, if you're looking to figure out how to narrow your focus and really go after some packaging and some different pricing strategies, make it so you can start getting some premium pricing. I think that's where the team at CountingWorks really helps. So if you're interested at all in scheduling a strategy call, please reach out to us at countingworkspro.com or give us a call at 800-442-2477. Or hook up with us on LinkedIn, Lee Reams II or Rebekah Barton. Either way, we're glad to, we share a lot of things online, but we're also here to help. So we hope you've enjoyed this latest podcast on search engine optimization, or as we've called it, a bunch of different things today. So hopefully we'll see you guys later on another podcast. We're working on a lot of new ideas. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you.